name is Rin Tintin. Welcome to the Republic of Hip Hop, the Drop Hip Hop Uncensored, where I bring you all the stars and rising stars of the hip hop game. Today, my guest is producer, DJ, pioneer, multi-award winning hip hop journalist. It's Ms Cosmo.
Hey, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Happy to be here.
Thank you so much for pulling through.
No problem. Thank you for inviting me. I'm quite keen, you know?
I love how you meeting the theme. You know, we look like Barbies right now. We look like serious Barbies. So, you know, a lot of people know that your cousin is the one that influenced you into music. Né? But what I want to know is, how did hip hop choose you? Because yes, your cousin played a very vital role in playing the old school hip hop and the music and her going to parties and all that. But what was the moment when you saw that, you know what, hip hop chose me?
I don't necessarily think I had a specific moment, but I think I definitely fell in love with hip hop because of her influence in the songs that she was sending me. But I think it was also just like moments where I was vibing to people like MC Lyte, Missy Elliott, Queen Latifah. And that for me, because it spoke to me, and seeing women who are killing it in this industry was also just like really amazing for me. And also just noticing that I started creating a lyric book, but a lot of the songs that I was writing down were all hip hop songs, I think was very testamental to the fact that I loved hip hop more than I did any other genre.
Okay, that's pretty dope. And fast forward to now your young adulthood, where you're at UJ and you're a BCom finance graduate, and you took a move of enrolling in Fuse.
Yeah.
Was your intention to have DJing as a hobby, or was it a potential different career path? Because we all know back then parents wanted you to get a degree.
Look, I mean, I still got my degree. So firstly, shout outs to the parents. But getting into Fuse, I think for me was, it was something that I didn't necessarily plan. I knew from a young age I wanted to do entertainment. I just didn't know what an entertainment I wanted to get into. And it took just a road trip with friends who had actually suggested, after listening to stuff, because I used to make like compilation CDs. But this was like in high school, where I would obviously, you know, you buy an album and then there's too many songs and you're like, I only like 5 of these songs on the album. So I'd make compilation CDs, just like kind of burning what I enjoyed. It became a habit where I would, you know, constantly make these CDs just for the car, just for parties, brides, whatever the case may be. And I think just from listening to those, friends of mine were just like, yo, you know, bring your CD back, you know, if you're going to have a bride or a party. And one of them actually suggested, they're like, you know what, you've actually got an ear for music. You could possibly get into DJing, because that could be something that you jump into. And I think from there, that was a pivotal moment. That one conversation kind of changed my thought process and saying, okay, well, I have, you know, passively been doing this thing for my own sake, but now I could actually, you know, take it to the next level. And that's when I then looked into DJ schools. And of course, that's when DJ Sinclair had Fuse Academy. And it just made it easier and more comfortable for me, because knowing that there was a school for women to get into the space was really awesome. Yeah.
And speaking of a space for women, even during around those times, your 2010s, 2012s, it was very difficult to penetrate the market as a female. But not you, honey. Listen, you went on to be the first female DJ on YTKO, right?
Yes.
So what are some of the dynamics that you went through? Because people see the Ms Cosmo brand right now, you know, but they kind of overlook some of the challenges you might have gone through, or the dynamics that you had to face.
Yeah. Look, it was tough, especially at that time, because the only like DJs that were getting recognition from a female space was Zintle and Sindo. And obviously coming into a hip hop space, which is different because it's a boys club within a boys club, you know, because DJing on its own is a boys club, and then hip hop it's like just even worse, you know. So I think for me, it was just my love of hip hop was what kind of was giving me the passion to continue. But it was tough. It's not as if it was easy enough for me to kind of get certain opportunities. I mean, getting things like YTKO and Basement was just because people had heard about me, or maybe they had kind of seen me playing in certain places where I had residencies and such. And I was lucky enough to also be in a space where men were starting to open up to the idea of females. I had male DJs who were in the industry already who were very supportive of my come up. The likes of DJ Dimples, Vigilantes, Pear Naves. They were very instrumental in me being able to feel comfortable within my space to actually get into the DJing place. So shout outs to them for at least supporting me because I think I needed that at the time. But everything else was literally just on all of my hard work and my passion. I think if I didn't push hard, people wouldn't have noticed me. They wouldn't have noticed that I was a woman trying to get into the space. And obviously the difficulties are also being taken seriously because a lot of people would have said, oh, they thought it was a gimmick that I just wanted to DJ because they knew me as this finance graduate who was working at a bank who now all of a sudden wants to DJ. It just was very weird for other people. But I think for me, it was like, well, it was something that was always inherent in me. Just because you didn't know it doesn't mean it didn't exist.
It wasn't there.
You know what I mean?
Because I also wanted to ask Hori, did you not come across people who were like, no, she's just pretty, she's female, that's why she's being successful?
I mean, not necessarily about my success, but I think just from a beginning perspective, because I think they just didn't understand what I was doing, especially because it was taboo for females to be DJs back then. Like I mentioned, the only ones that were prominent were Zintle and Sindo. And shout outs to them because I think if they didn't break down that door, it wouldn't have opened up enough for me to get in from a hip hop space either. But yeah, I did get a lot of the, oh, is she really good at this? Does she even know what she's doing? Should she be getting these opportunities? Because I was also getting opportunities that a lot of guys weren't getting because they wanted them. And I just had to prove myself at every point.
It's the you playing on vinyls for me. It's the you playing on vinyls for me. And you still love playing on vinyl.
Yeah.
What is it about it that just tickles your fancy that, you know what, I prefer a vinyl than just, memory stick?
You know what? I love vinyl because firstly, that's how I learned how to DJ. So for me, it was the original machinery or the software that I used first before getting into the USBs and CDs and Serato and all of the case may be. So it's like your first love. It's that thing that you latch onto because that's what introduced you to the craft. But I always liken it to driving a car. I know a lot of people, obviously nowadays, it's easier to drive an automatic, and that's why it's easier to play on USBs
and they don't
or
know
Serato.
how to drive the manual.
But you can't drive a manual. But then if you look at things like Formula One, or you look at like people who actually do like speed racing, they prefer to have it manual because you can control the car. And for me, that's what I enjoy the most about vinyls, is that I still get to physically control the music properly in the way that I'm naturally supposed to control it, and not necessarily let a machine do half of the work for me, you know?
So basically you enjoy the art and doing the actual work and not just lazing it around, just like, I can do it anyway.
Yeah. But I also, it's testament to the fact that I learned it that way, you know? Because
that's your foundation.
Exactly. Because I think a lot of people also find comfort zones in how they learned. So some people might have learned using a computer and that's why they stick to it, and they wouldn't know how to play with vinyls because that's not what they started with, and they might be too afraid, you know?
Which you have a pretty good point. And one of the things I really love about you, I remember I had said on a tweet that you had to run for the women in hip hop to be making the different moves in different lanes on hip hop. You know what I'm saying? And what I want to ask you is, why is it so important for you to pass on the baton to the likes of Nikki Newlands and other female DJs? Because you were the first female on YTKO, but now you're on 5. But you leaving YFM didn't mean that, no, it's onto a bigger milestone, but it's a, guys, let's all go together.
Yeah.
So why was that so important for you?
It's still important for me right now because I understand that sometimes women get discouraged because they don't feel they've got opportunities. And I think that's horrible to think like that, especially because we're just as capable, you know? And I think with women, we definitely want opportunities. It's just that we're always overlooked because it's always like, okay, well, which guy can we book? And it's like, no, but the women can do it just as well, you know? And I love the fact that women have now opened themselves up to this DJing space because now they also know that they're just as capable, and they've just got the skill and the passion behind it as well. I mean, the likes of Lamise, who's killing it in the game right now, was also somebody who was on the come up when I was also ushering in. And I've known her from way back when she first started out, you know what I mean? So it's nice to kind of see these people's trajectory and just to see that we're evening out the playing field. Because that's what I think is important, is not necessarily leaving it as a boys' club. Because if you continuously allow this notion that it is a boys' club, is that it will never change. And if we want equality, we need to fight for it, you know?
So you need to change the narrative and say, listen, you can conquer anything that you put your mind to.
Exactly.
Is that why you came up with She Social?
100%.
So what was that about? Was it because I don't think it was solely just about embracing just, the feminine side of being able to be successful in the entertainment or hip hop industry. But I feel like there's a sense of background or a sense of concept where you're like, you know what, I need to create this not just for myself but for these certain concepts as well. So how did that come about?
Definitely, that was the reason for me to create She Social, because I intended on allowing or creating a platform for females to feel comfortable to perform, but also trying to change the mindset of consumers and people so that they don't always think that there needs to be a male as a headliner for them to enjoy an event. I think that's what I'm trying to kind of switch around, because we can go to a party and enjoy women who are on stage because they're the ones who are actually killing it right now. If you look at all the independent artists in the game, majority of them are female. And they are killing it. The likes of Shoma Josie, Busi Swa, Moonchild, all independent. And you would never say so because you would think, oh no, they've got labels, they've got this, they've got... No, they're actually doing it all on their own breath. The likes of Muesli, Rouge, Gigi Lemaine, they're all independent and they're still able to carry themselves as businesses, take themselves seriously, but also break boundaries and get their music out there. So I want women to understand that that is a possibility, which of course they see because of the names that I've just mentioned. But outside of that, also for them to feel like they've got opportunities without feeling like they need to be sexually harassed or feeling like they need to give sexual favors for them to achieve anything. You know what I mean? Firstly, number one for that. And also just feeling like they can achieve it without needing to be in somebody's shadow. Why do they always have to feature on a male song in order for them to be recognized?
Or
do you know
being,
what I mean?
A lot of the idea is that you need to owe someone to get somewhere.
Exactly.
So being kind of self-made in a community where they are motivated and built instead of having to get to the top and people are like, well, you wouldn't be there because of me.
Exactly.
So
exactly.
I really dig that. And the thing that I really love about She Social is that it's not just about the music, but about the culture and, the fashion, the way that we look. I think also we're changing the narrative that you need to look like a tomboy, or you need to be even more aggressive than the guys, to be in the hip hop industry. So personally, for you, what are some of the other features in hip hop that you love? Is it the street culture? Is it the looking pretty? Is it the eyelashes? Is it, you know what I'm saying? What is it about the hip hop industry?
For me, it's pop culture in general, not necessarily only just hip hop. I think I've got a likening to everybody who's killing it in the game, whether you are doing piano, whether you're doing qom, whether you're doing deep house, whether you're doing hip hop. For me, if you're a female and you're killing it within the art space, that's what's amazing for me. So whether you're a DJ, whether you're a performer, whether you're a photographer, whether you're an artist, a fashion designer, anything in the creative space is what She Social is created for. And for me, I just want to see those people also shine within those spaces so that they don't feel they need to depend on anybody else but themselves to get to the next level.
Now, your branding is a very strong, and I'd like to say that you're a pioneer because your branding is so, it can stand on its own. Yeah? Now, being that said, you're also, bringing in new talent and new people in the new wave. How does it feel for you? Or do you feel the pressure of always having to put people on? Because on the Stir Up, you play new music all the time. Even on Popcast, you speak about new wave artists. You speak about new creatives in, the space. So personally or emotionally, how do you handle the pressure of constantly having to put people on? Because on a daily basis, people will tag you under certain, you'll tweet, oh, it's so hot today.
Yeah.
They're like, please listen to my song.
Exactly.
How does that feel?
Look, it's hard to filter through. If you watched the podcast episode with Buntle Murisele that we had recently, you'll see that she also kind of complains about the same thing. Not necessarily complain. I wouldn't
she's
use
overwhelmed.
That. But she's overwhelmed because she noticed. She actually said that there was a time where Kamumpela actually used to tag her all the time to be like, Buntle, please watch my videos. Buntle, please 1, 2, 3, please 1, 2, 3. And for her, she also didn't really pay attention because unfortunately it happens so often. Then it's like, who do you really pay attention to? So what I always try and implore to people, especially for young artists, is make me pay attention, but not necessarily by begging or tagging me like that. Because if you're tagging me and you're sending me an email, everybody else is doing that as well. The entire country is doing that. Being on a national station means that I've got the entire country new artists who are sending me music. But there's always artists who are creating a buzz on their own that forced me to pay attention.
To look into them.
And that's what Kamu also did to Buntle, where she forced Buntle to pay attention, and now they're working with each other. Do you know what I mean? So for me, it's not necessarily to say that I'm not paying attention to everybody or
But
the
stand
emails,
out.
but something needs to scream at me so that I can also be like, yo, I can't sleep on this person because this person's got next. And it's that drive and ambition that also puts you ahead of the rest. Because if you can send an email, everyone can send an email.
If you tweet, everybody can tweet.
Exactly. But what are you doing extra that's going to keep you in that position if I play your song? Because it's easy to play a song on radio. But are you going to do something about it for you to maintain that level of attention from everybody else outside of me? And that's why I always try and get people to then say, okay, are you going to create a buzz around your hood for people to then say, yo, Katle Hong's finest, with this person, you know what I mean? Now I'm paying attention because your fans are saying it. You know what I mean? And now I'm like, okay, I need to check out what's actually happening on these streets. So it's little things like that play a big part. I mean, somebody like Uncle Vinny wouldn't be where he is right now if he just decided, I'm just gonna tweet Ricky and hopefully he's gonna like me. He was he was at every single event. He was there at the front lines. He was making sure people paid attention to him. He made people see who he is right now. He's doing it even till today, making sure people pay attention. And that's why he's going to get to the next level. We can't ignore him.
Because he's creating even a bigger buzz. Because
exactly.
He's there, but he's like, I want
more.
I want this.
And we can't ignore him.
That's true.
You know what I
mean? So basically what I'm getting from you is that you need to be so authentic that you sell yourself, not because you're attached to Ms Cosmo, but because you are yourself.
Exactly. Because I can only do one thing, which is play your song on the radio. But even then, once that 3 minutes is over, people move on.
True.
You know what I mean?
That's very true.
Exactly.
So now, how do you then differentiate from the stir up Ms Cosmo, she's social Ms Cosmo, popcast Ms Cosmo? Or is it the thing of you need to mentally check yourself? Okay, now I'm at the drop. Here's the personality Ms Cosmo. Now
I don't change. I think I'm the same person in every space. I think I've also kind of curated my brand to be the same person in every space. All I do is just extend myself to every space. So on a podcasting space is still speaking about hip hop and the culture. On radio, I'm speaking about hip hop and the culture. She's social. I'm giving a platform to female hip hop artists as well as DJs and everybody else within the female space, but it's still about the culture. So I think for me, it's about pushing that forward, but also creating opportunities. That's what's important to me. So I don't think I necessarily change my persona. I think maybe I will put on a different hat, but it's still me.
It's still you.
You know?
Okay. Do you think that we're making progress as women?
100%.
Or at a pace that we should, or are we at a faster pace?
Look, I do think we need to push a little bit harder with regards to introducing new artists, new talent. But I'm loving the fact that we are killing it within the international space and within the cultural space, or let me rather say, just from an attention perspective, like the women who are doing big things right now can't be faulted for the amount of work they've put in. Hence, I've mentioned the Shoma Josies, the Busiswas, the Moonchilds, the Kamompelas of the world who are going international and representing us in different spaces.
The chef shapers.
So for me, I find that amazing. But I do think there's still opportunity for new artists, new females to come through.
Something new
so,
as well.
Exactly. I'm loving the fact that Dee Koala is killing the game from Cape Town. She doesn't necessarily have to live in Joburg to do what she's doing. And I love that about her because she's still staying true to herself, even though she doesn't have to be where everyone feels like if you don't live in Joburg, you won't make it. It's rubbish. Now we're in a social media space where your phone can literally put you in any position. You know what I mean?
It's like you said, her fans help carry the load with her.
Exactly.
Because wherever she is, they make the buzz for her, even when she doesn't create the buzz.
100%.
You know? Yeah. So you have also have the producer hat, right? And songs like Connect, 88, Baningi. Do you create those concepts and the beats in with the idea that I want the specific person on, or that specific person on, or does it just organically happen where they call you and you're like, oh, actually I have this beat, so hop on?
I normally put that together with the composer, and I usually know who I want on a specific song. I can always tell from a beat that I listen to, and then I'll say, this is who needs to be on the song.
Your ear again is doing the most.
And I can really tell which kind of collaborations will work together. on specific songs. I also know which kind of vibe I want for a specific song. So I think that's the importance of being the producer of a song. And I know there's always this conversation around, oh, you're a DJ, but you didn't make the beats, or what did you do? And it's like, yeah, but I might not have physically put one beat, a drum and a snare together, but the idea is mine,
yours.
which means it's mine, which means I'm the producer, because I produced the song. At the end of the day, I made sure I called the artist, I told them the idea, I told them what I wanted to sound like. If I want something and they don't portray it and I need them to change it, I will do that. I've done that before, where I've said, this verse is not cracking. Go and fix it. Because at the end of the day, the song needs to depict what my idea was. Do you understand? And I think that's the importance that the game needs to understand, is that everybody plays their part. You can have songwriters who literally just write a chorus, and that's the part they've played. You've got a verse that comes from a rapper, and that's the part he's played. There's the beat maker, he's played his part. There's the engineer, he's played his part. But all of these facets come together because of one person, and that person is usually me, because I know what I wanted for the song to kind of come together. So don't not necessarily disrespect, but also don't downplay the role that we play just because they assume that's the role we're supposed to play. There's a lot of house DJs who don't make their own beats. But they also produce it. Exactly. But I think it's just this notion that all house DJs are producers. No.
Not all of them.
Not all of them.
And with the telling, guide, let me call it guidance. With the guiding of artists and with their verses and with how they, carry out your direction. Because I feel like you're also a director, because you tell them, because you have this idea that you want to bring to life. How have you never been in a situation where there was a bit of friction or tension that, who are you to tell me to change my verse?
No, because firstly, I think a lot of the times that I've dealt with people, it's also because they understand me and we have that relationship and open enough for me to kind of then say it needs to work in a certain light. Obviously, like as artists are emotional over their music and they'll feel some type of way, but then they'll see the vision at the end. I think that's what the important thing is. And I think also as artists, they understand that you need to keep reworking something before you get the final product. So even themselves, when they make their own music for their own albums, it will never sound like the first draft that they wrote down or that they recorded. They'll always go back and maybe say, maybe I need to change this. Maybe I need to add libs on that. Maybe I need to do 1, 2, 3. So they understand that this is the music making process. Sometimes things need to be changed, and they usually change for the better.
And you need to be a bit more flexible.
Exactly.
Okay, so I want to go into this now. How do you deal with the backlash of your opinions, because you're also a hip hop journalist, because you report not only on radio but on your podcast as well. So how do you then deal with the backlash of people saying, "Hi, with this one you're wrong," or the disagreements? How do you deal with it?
I mean, it's hip hop.
It's not gospel.
No one ever agrees. I mean, and the thing is, people also need to remember that these things are opinion based. I'm not speaking on facts. Well, most of the time I'll present a fact and then give my opinion, and people will then disagree with my opinion, which is fine because we're human. I mean, it would be boring if we all agreed. You know what I mean? And we all don't feel the same way about certain artists. We don't all enjoy the same artists. We don't all enjoy the same songs. There's been certain songs by my favorite artists who I haven't enjoyed. And maybe I'll even tell them. I remember there was a one song that I didn't like of Questas. And when he found out I didn't like it, I was like, ugh. But dude, I've got nothing against you. It's just that song didn't talk to me. It spoke to everybody else, and that's great, but just not me. And that's just how the world works. So I think catching feelings about what people say and them arguing or whatever, yeah, you listen to them, take it with a pinch of salt. If they raise a valid point,
learn from it.
Then I'll either learn from it and I'll acknowledge it as well. I'll even mention, I'll say, hey, this person said 1, 2, 3, and it got me thinking, yeah, maybe I'll change my mind. I'm very open to changing my mind when I'm presented with new information. If I'm not presented with new information, and for me it just feels like this is what it is for me, that's what it is.
It just also gets just flown in the air.
Yeah.
Now, we're at a moment and a time where hip-hop is evolving, but also at the same time adapting other types of genres. So would you say that hip-hop artists kind of moving also into the amapiano or soul or, other more gentler genres is good and helps hip-hop stay relevant than it was in like 2015, 14?
Look, I think people also misunderstand what hip-hop is. Hip-hop is rhythm and a beat. It's also just rhythm and rap. You know, for us, it's about making sure that you get your message out there. And whether you're doing it in a specific beat, whether it sounds like a boom bap beat or whether it sounds like a piano beat, doesn't matter. You're still rhyming in a sequence. You know what I mean? And that's what rap is. So hip hop is a culture. People also need to remember that it's about what's happening in and around the music and not necessarily just about the song. So if a hip hop artist goes into a piano beat, that's fine. He's still rapping. Whether you like it or not.
The skill is still there.
Focalistic is rapping. You guys can tell him whatever you want. At the end of the day, he's rapping.
The skill is still there.
100%. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm open to it. And I think artists need to be able to be creative enough and fluid enough. Because you can't call yourself a musician if you're going to stick to one box. You need to be fluid enough to be able to play around with different things and show your skill. Because you'll never grow or evolve if you don't adapt. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, I mean, we find that even with some house artists who feature hip-hop artists because they understand that they want to try something different and extend themselves as well and not necessarily move in one position. So I think as a musician, you just need to be able to try different things.
That's pretty dope. Now, before I let you go, I'm going to play a game with you.
Okay.
You need to pick one or the other. You can't pick both. You can't say, you need to pick. Okay. The first one is Popcast or She Social. Pick one.
Wow. Ooh. For now, Popcast, but in the long run, She's Social.
Now you're cheating.
I'm not cheating.
You have to pick one. You can't say no.
No. Okay, like I said, because it's a today question, I'll say Popcast, but my heart, it's long-term She's Social.
Okay. Baningi, Connect or Puti?
Connect.
Why Connect? I thought you would have picked Baningi because for me, like I resonate more with Baningi and
I resonate with all three of the songs, but for me it's because it was my first baby.
Okay.
Yeah.
YTKO or the Stir Up?
The Stir Up 100%.
Okay. DJing or producing music?
Ooh, DJing. Producing's a lot of work. No ways. Artists are headache. No ways.
They stress you out there.
Yo, working with artists, you'll pull your hair out. DJing is easy. You just get there, you play 1 hour, you leave.
Okay, the last one, Rouge or D Koala?
Wow.
No, it's just a game. It's nothing more. Also, it's hip hop. Come on.
I don't have an answer for that one.
No, but you need to pick one.
No, I'm not choosing. I'm sorry, you can't force me.
They all just cheat. Whenever I'm
not cheating.
You need to answer.
I'm not going to answer that question. Because the thing is also, I respect them both for different things. So for me, I've never necessarily put one or the other above the other for whatever specific reason. And they're both extremely talented. They're both different artists. I think that's what also makes it difficult. So no, I can't tell you.
Well, thank you so much for pulling through.
Thank you.
Where can people follow you and book you? Like it's very obvious, but
social media definitely. Ms Cosmo SA. That's where you can find me. So that's on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And you can book me on bookings at MsCosmoDJ.com.
And then the Stir Up, where can they send the music?
Send the music to music@MsCosmoDJ.com. You can also send it to MsCosmo@5fm.co.za. I do try and check all my emails. It's just very difficult. Like I said, the whole country sending music. I'm only on air for 3 hours a week. It's hard.
It's a lot of emails.
It's a lot, but I do try and filter through. There's been a lot of artists whose music I've played that I've never met. So people always have this thing of, no, she favors her friends. I'm like, no. Firstly, you need to remember I'm on radio. So it still needs to have a commercial value. You know what I mean? But outside of that, like, there's been plenty times where I've played people and then I'm like, oh, is that you? Yeah, I played your song 2 weeks ago. And they're like, oh my God, I didn't know. Yeah. I'm like, yeah, you bombard me with emails. You don't even listen to the show. You don't know when your song's playing.
Thank you so much for coming through. Hey.
Thank you so much for having me.
It was so great to have you. And beautiful people, that is a wrap. Don't forget to follow us at The Drop and Censored on all social media platforms. Don't forget to tell their people to subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell. And listen, if you know a rising star or a fucked up, dope-ass lyricist, rapper, creative in the hip-hop industry, email us at thedropandcensored@gmail.com. You know I'm twice as nice.